Hello everyone. Welcome to our final installment of the 36 questions that are known to help you connect in more meaningful, awesome ways. If you missed the first and the second video with the first and second set of questions, I'll link them above on that side, and they'll also be in the description down below. So we've arrived at the final set of questions, things that might feel like bearing our soul. Can we really do that? The question for me is, can I live my life this way? Can I live my life feeling free and able to share what comes to my mind or things that I'm feeling in real ways? Because if I can do that, then I can answer a bunch of questions with anyone and I don't have to worry about it. It's how we form connections with people, by being real. So if I can do it today in front of thousands of people on the internet, you can do it with one person. And stay tuned for the final question where it directs me to ask you and tell you about a real problem that I'm having so I can get your advice. And I do. So let's do it. So these questions are the deepest yet. They ask us to be vulnerable and honest. So as we go through these questions and you're thinking about what your answers might be, you're listening to mine, you're really getting in touch with your vulnerabilities, your fears, your desires, what you really want through connection and what you really want for your life. Things that really matter to you. So these questions start at question 25. We've gone through 1 through 24 in the other two videos. So question 25. Make 3 true we statements. For instance, if I were talking to one person, we are both in this room feeling something. And what I would say if I were doing this with one person, or if I'm doing this with all of you for reals, is I'm feeling a little vulnerable, a little scared maybe, and a little hopeful. And this question really gets to acknowledge that we share feelings, we share experiences. I'm feeling something, you're probably feeling it too, and that brings us closer together. So it's a really nice way to start. All right. Question 26. Complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share. You know, this helps us think about companionship. Like, where do we feel alone? Where do we want support? Where do we not feel as connected as we want to be? And I work really hard to move in the direction of asking for support, of asking for connection. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think I would say I wish I had someone where I could share basically the weight of having to make things work, of having to keep going, of having to make it be okay. And I feel like I have that. My partner is incredibly supportive. But sometimes in the moment, in a really hard day, in a really cruddy situation, you just want somebody there to be like, oh, God. And to laugh and to be like, oh, this is killing me. Like, I got to be an adult like all the time. So somebody in the moment to do that with, that would be such a blessing. And that really helps us think about connection and what you want from a friend. And when you're talking to someone, you are letting them know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is where I'm missing something. So maybe they could decide, I could be that. All right, question 27. If you are going to become close with the person you're talking to, they call that your partner, please share what would be important for that person to know. And this is about being honest about what you actually want, about your expectations or your desires and your boundaries. So this builds trust, right? I would want you to know that I like knowing you're crazy. Not like you are crazy, but your version of crazy. And I like sharing mine. And that's really like a funny way of saying, be real, because it's cool with me, and I want to be real with you too. All right, question 28. Tell your partner what you like about them. Be very honest this time, saying things that you might not say to someone you've just met. So now they're wanting us to get deeper, right? It really, it pushes you to get more real. Like, oh, I was real before. I like your hair, or like your blah, 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 whatever. But now it's like, okay, we've been talking for a while. Is there something else you notice about what they've said or who they are, who they seem to be as they're talking to you that you really like? And I just really like that you've been a bit vulnerable, that people have commented and said things about their own lives. And I appreciate that because I want to be with you in all of this and not feeling alone. All right, question 29. Share with your partner an embarrassing moment in your life. All right, this is good for empathy. We all mess up. We are not alone in making ridiculous, stupid mistakes. All right, I mess up so many times. I am so embarrassed so many times. For example, I have 2 kids. We interact with lots of parents, with lots of children. We have them over for birthday parties. Like, I've been exposed to lots of people. I'm not great with names. I've never been great with names, but I'm not even really that great with faces always. I mean, if I've seen you a bunch of times, I'll remember you. But if I see you a couple times, I might not recognize you very well, if at all. And we were at a soccer game, and this little girl was there, and she's been, my child's friend for a while. And I didn't recognize her. It'd been like the summer had passed and she looked older, so I didn't really recognize her. And her dad was there. And they have been to our house for birthday parties. I've talked to him several times. And I turned to her father and went, "Oh, do you go to a different school?" I was trying to be friendly. Like, I genuinely thought, I've never met this man, and I should say hi and be friendly, and asked where he's from. And he looked at me like, "Are you crazy? Like, hello, we know each other." And it was just really embarrassing. So I explained, his daughter looked all grown up and, I'm clueless and sorry. God. All right. Lots of empathy for people out there in those kind of situations. Question 30. When did you last cry in front of another person or by yourself? When we talk about when and why we cry, it's really sharing this sense of what moves us. What do we care about? What brings up our deep emotion? When are we able to be vulnerable? I last cried with a colleague because she shared something really vulnerable and really emotional. And I felt it. I feel emotions, and it teared me up. I was crying with her. We were both crying. It was a Zoom meeting and we're still both crying. And it was really nice. I was so thankful that she was willing to be vulnerable with me and just let me be vulnerable too. All right. Question 31. Tell your partner something that you like about them already. I call these affirmations, and telling people what you appreciate, what you like, what they mean to you, it is incredibly powerful. And even, at the outset of getting to know someone, you can already like something. It's just so powerful. I try to end most meetings or most interactions just letting people know what I really appreciate about them. And the things that we often feel, but we don't say. So I really like that you're here. And if I could see each one of you, I'm sure there's something that I would very quickly really like and appreciate about you. All right. Question 32. What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about? So this can help us think about, it could be like, or what are our moral or ethical boundaries? What do we consider really to be sacred in life? And it might also reflect this idea of what's just really too raw for us to be joked about. And this is hard for me because I feel like in a lot of ways, humor helps everything. Like, we use humor to cope. It makes life better and easier. It gets us through really hard times. So a lot of times humor is useful, but you have to use it in the right way, in the right time, in the right connectedness. And that can be really hard to judge. So if you don't know someone well, if you don't know me well, you probably shouldn't joke about the Holocaust. You shouldn't joke about my mother's death. Unless you know me really, really well, and it just really fits with what we're talking about. Okay. Question 33. If you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you regret not having told someone, and why haven't you told them yet? This helps us think about, well, why do we put off important conversations? What stops us from saying things that we're actually going to regret? Can we go have those conversations now? Can we say these important things? Sharing that with someone, saying it out loud is the first step to actually having the conversation with the person. And I truly feel like you can't say I love you enough, so there'd be lots of I love yous. But I think the thing that I haven't told my kids is that they can do this thing called life. Like they are strong and they are smart and they are brave and they are capable, and that they can actually do it, even though I would desperately want to be there doing it with them. But they could do it on their own, and I don't know that I've said that enough to them. So there you go. All right. Question 34. Your house containing everything you own catches fire. After saving your loved ones and pets, yay pets, you have time to safely make a final dash to save any one item. What would it be and why? All right. So this gets at this idea, well, in the world of material things, what do we actually value? What do we think is actually important? And I could say something like, oh, my phone or my laptop. That would be very utilitarian. But what comes to mind for me is that my kiddos each have one really, really special thing. Scarlett has her Bubba, which is her blanket. She's had it since she was a baby, her Bubba and her Teddy. And these items for Scarlett are crucial. She loves them. She treasures them. She takes them to bed still. She will live and die with these items. And Lincoln has the equivalent stuffy. His name is Banji, and he is a little panda. And those material items are so loved by them that if I could quickly grab them up, I know that's 3 things and not just one, but I'll just put it into the children's memorabilia that they love. I would go and get those things because that would just make their life better. All right, question 35, 2 left. Of all the people in your family, whose death would you find most disturbing and why? So this is a hard question for people because it gets into your fears of loss. It can get into this idea of who are we emotionally in some ways dependent on or so attached to. And that is a very connecting kind of conversation. And I would have to say that if my children died, that would be incredibly, incredibly disturbing for me, incredibly hard, either one of them or both, or however you want to look at that. And that would be very, very difficult of all the people in the world. Okay, last question. It's a biggie. Share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how they might handle it. And ask them to reflect back to you on how you seem to be feeling about the problem you've chosen. This is connecting. This helps people help us, or at least hear us and say important things out loud. And I've got problems. Who doesn't have problems? So my problem is this. I have a colleague who turned into a friend. I adore this person. I've known him for years, and we were incredibly close. And when I say incredibly close, it wasn't like we were seeing each other all the time. It was a deep friendship that we really just enjoyed each other. We didn't even see each other that often, but when we did, there was a warmth and a happiness to it. We were really connected with his family. He's really connected with our family. We were professional colleagues, and so there was just so much happiness and joy, and it was fun talking to him, and he cared about me and I cared about him. It was so great. And he got diagnosed with a pretty rare form of cancer. And so he retired, and he is kind of battling this cancer, and he had 1 round of treatment, and he hasn't had active treatment since then, but he expected to die within a year or 2. And now it's been 4 or 5 years. This is, quite a long time to live. And he's still surviving, and he is with his family, and he is existing. And I think he's struggling. And I have so much empathy for him. And at the same time, he really withdrew from our friendship and doesn't want to spend time, or not a whole lot of time. Maybe once a year he'll go for a walk with me. But most of the time he's not feeling maybe well enough. Although I don't know, he doesn't actually say that necessarily. I don't know if he's feeling emotionally well enough. But for me, it's just been hard because he's dying. I have empathy. You can't have feelings of being mad at somebody who's dying when they kind of ghost your friendship, right? Because they're dying. They get to do whatever they want. But I do feel, I would say mad, but I think it's more hurt. If any of you have thoughts on it or wisdom or just want to empathize, or if you've been through an experience like that yourselves, I'd love to hear it because it's a hard one for me. All right. So there you have it. We have gone through 36 questions that literally just can't help but make you feel more connected to the person you're talking to. And I hope that our journey of going through them, and feel free to watch these videos as much as you want, and think about the questions, has helped you think about yourself, but has also helped you think about sharing with others. Because just like you want to know about other people, they want to know about you. And it's the conversation. It's the wanting to understand and feeling understood that connects us. And these questions are one structured way to do it, so you don't have to make up other ways. So I'm just so glad that we've gotten to do this together. And if you want more ideas on how to connect, how to have a healthy brain or a better quality of life, feel free to join our community, our This Beautiful Brain newsletter. It comes out once a week on Sundays, and we share more of these ideas. So the link for that will be below. And I just can't wait to see you in the next one. All right. Bye-bye.